Hi everyone, my name is Mahmoud Sheikh and in today's video we will start a new tutorial series using core PHP, MySQL database, AJAX and Bootstrap framework. Okay, in this series we will discuss about developing a simple multi-search and multiple filter application. Okay, so here you can see I have already developed this application where at the bottom you will see a list of various employees and their details are listed in the form of a table where I have the details like employee name, task details, start date, end date, and then status, and we have an action, okay, where we can delete any task. Okay, so now here in the task details you can see all the various tasks. Okay, so like there are designing responsive website task, web portal development, responsive web development. Okay, and here we can see the status. So now if at any point of time I want to search some specific details of some tasks, then I can clearly filter the task by checking these checkboxes. Okay, so now if I want to view the details of a responsive web development task, Android development task, and any other, then I just need to check those checkboxes, and now when I click on apply, then I will get the details of only those tasks. Okay, now if I want to get the details of those tasks which are pending, then I just need to click on this status drop down and I need to click on this pending. Then it will show me the task which is in pending state. Okay, so now let me just refresh. So now you can see in this table there is only one task which is under pending state. If I want to view the details of those tasks which are in progress, now I can clearly filter those tasks. Okay, so now you can see there are two tasks which are under in progress state. So now I will select this in progress state. Now you can see it start displaying you those tasks which are under in progress state. Okay, so if I want to view the completed task, then I can view the completed task as well. Okay, so now if I want to view the details based on the task, PHP website development, okay, and then WordPress website, now I will click on apply. Now you can see it start displaying me the details of those tasks which I have selected. Okay, so now let me just refresh. So now apart from fetching the details based on some specific task and based on the status, I can also search the task. Okay, suppose I want to search the task based on the employee name. Okay, then I will type MEH. The moment when I type ME, then it will start displaying me the details of that employee whose name starts with ME. Okay, now if I change it to something else, like I want to view the details of that employee whose name has K in it. Okay, so now it will start displaying me all those employee names who has K letter in their name. Okay, like this I can also search the details. Okay, apart from these searching and filtration, I can also add the employee. Okay, so if I want to add the employee, then I just need to click on this add employee. Okay, and then I just need to type the name of the employee, Manisha. Will put this under in progress status, and when I click on add employee, you will get a message as a record saved successfully, and when I click on OK, now you can see the record which we have added just now gets added. Okay, Manisha with task details as Python. Okay, and that task also gets stored and started displaying inside this drop down. Okay, now if I want to filter the record based on any task, suppose I check this Python, and when I click on this apply, it will start displaying me the details of only that employee who has Python as task. Okay, so now let me just refresh. Okay, and at the end, if I want to delete any task, then I just need to click on this delete, then it will show me a message in the form of an alert box, record deleted successfully, and when I click on OK, that record gets deleted. Okay, so this is a simple searching and filtration application which we are going to develop using core PHP, MySQL database, AJAX, and Bootstrap framework. Okay, so here you can see I have a database, and actually I am maintaining two tables in my data filter database, and those tables are data filter and then status. In this status table I have stored various status like completed, pending, hold, in progress status. Okay, and in the data filter table I have stored the details of task. Okay, so this is everything about the multiple filter and multiple search functionality application. Okay, so now let us start our application. So for developing this kind of application, you need to go to your XAMPP folder. Now you can see I'm inside my htdocs folder, and in the htdocs folder I have created a folder with a name as data filter, and in that I have created two folders. One is assets, another one is config, and I have created a file with a name as index.php. Okay, and I have imported this project in my editor. Okay, I'm using Sublime editor. Okay, so you can see the same name, which is data filter, showing here, which has two folders, assets and config. Okay, inside the config folder I will be creating my database connection file, okay, that we will be discussing in our next video. And inside assets folder I have created three further folders. First one is for CSS, second one is for font awesome, and then third one is for JS. Inside the CSS folder I will be storing various CSS files which are required for this project, and under font awesome I have stored all the necessary font awesome related files. Okay, and inside the JS folder I have necessary JS files which are required for this project. Okay, I will put the link in the description of this video from where you can easily download all these CSS and JS files along with the font awesome folder. Okay, and now you can see I have created a file with a name as index.php inside my data filter. Okay, so now first what we need to do is we need to link all our CSS and JS files with our project. Okay, so just few seconds back I have shown you that I will be using the CSS and JS and font awesome files, so I need to link all these files with my project. Okay, so now here you can see I have already linked CSS and JS files. Now once you are done with linking all these files, then you need to come to your body section. Okay, then you need to create a div with a class of container, and inside that you need to create another div with a class of row. Okay, so now let me just save it, and let me just come to my browser, and here I am refreshing the project. Now we need to create this kind of box, okay, where we allow the users to enter the name or allow the user to search the record based on the employee name. Now let me just do that. Okay, so now here first I need to create a panel, okay, with a class of panel default. Okay, under that I need to create another div with a class of panel heading. Okay, and then I have created a header or a label as search for employee. So now let me just save it, and when I refresh, now you can see this box started appearing. Okay, now you can see I am getting a box with a search for employee as a title. Okay, next I had to create a button, okay, which allow me to add the details of employee. Okay, I have created an anchor tag with a class of btn primary, okay, and then btn sm because I want the smaller button, and I have added further inline styling as well. I want that button to be displayed on the extreme right side of the box. That's why I have included float as right. Okay, and in that I have created another tag of I, which allow me to display a plus icon on top of the button. Okay, and I have set the size of that icon as well. Okay, and I have given a label as add employee. So now when I save it and when I refresh, you will see the button start appearing here on the top right side. See. Okay, next we need to create the panel body. Inside the panel body, we have to create a text box for searching the user details. Okay, now let me just create that. Okay, so here I have created a form with a method of post, and under that I have created another div with a class of form group, and then I have created an input of type text with a name of emp name and id emp name as well, and a class as form control along with the placeholder. Okay, now let me just refresh. Okay, so now you can see text box for searching the details based on the name of the employee started displaying inside this box. Okay, now apart from creating this top section, I also need to create this bottom section, which is a table. Okay, so for creating that I need to create a table below this div. Okay, here our panel gets started and here the panel gets end, and once we close the panel, then we have to start the table with a class of table, and I have given it a background color as white. Okay, and inside that I'm displaying a caption which says list of employees. See here, caption started displaying, and then I have created a table head, and first I need to create a row. Okay, and inside that row I need to create the various headers and data tags. Okay, how much ever columns I want in the table, I need to display all those table headers inside this table row. Okay, and then I have created a table header with a name as employee name. Okay, and next, and inside the task details I need to create a drop down which I have created here. Okay, see this kind of arrow I want to display beside the task details label. Okay, ul with a class of head item and list with a class of drop down, and I have created an anchor tag with a data toggle attribute set to drop down. Okay, so these are the default classes of Bootstrap framework. Okay, and I have a class as drop down toggle class for this anchor. Okay, and there is a small caret also I want to be displayed before the label here. Okay, next let me just refresh. Okay, so here yes, status and action. Okay, so here you can see I have created a table header or column for start date, end date, and this one is for displaying the status, and then finally we have an action column. Okay, so like this we have to design our upper section, which is this section, and the lower section, which is this table. Okay. So in this video we will try to complete the feature of connecting our application with our MySQL database, and also we will try to fetch all these records from this MySQL table by sending an AJAX post request using PHP. Okay, so now let us start doing that. Okay, so for that first we need to go to the editor. Okay, so here you can see I have created a folder with a name as config, and inside that I have created a db.php file, and in this db.php file I have written the code to make a successful connection with the MySQL database. Okay, so for establishing connection with the MySQL database using PHP, you need few details like what is the server name, what is the username, password, database name. Okay, so here I have set all those things. Okay, the server name will be localhost or 127.0.0.1 and username will be root, and I have not set any password, that's why I have left it as blank. And I have given the name to the database as data filter, and then we need to start creating the connection. Okay, so for creating the connection I am using MySQLi connect method, and in that method I am passing all these details like server name, username, password and database name. Okay, and then I am checking if the connection didn't get established successfully, then I will be displaying an error message to the user saying that connection failed. Okay, and that error message will be displayed using MySQL connect error method. Okay, then if the connection successfully gets established, then based on the AJAX post request made to our MySQL server, each and every of these records gets fetched out and started displaying here in our table. Okay, so here we have completed the coding of connecting the PHP script with MySQL database. Okay, so now we need to include this db.php file in our action.php file. So this action.php file is been used to receive the AJAX post request which has been sent from this index.php file. Okay, so now let us first come to the index.php file and let us come to the end of this file. Okay, so all these things, whatever markup you can see here, we had done all these things in our last video. Okay, and here you can see I have created a table body. Okay, so here table head gets completed, okay, which is the header of the table, and once we completed the table header, then we have created a table body and I have given it as an ID as post list. Okay, so I will be using this post list ID in my jQuery code to display all the records on the table. Okay, now let us come at the end of this index.php file. Okay, here you can see I have created an script tag. Okay, and from here we need to make an AJAX jQuery post request to our action.php file. Okay, so now here you can see I have created a function with the name as fetch data. Okay, and inside this function I have created a variable as action. Okay, and this action which is fetch data, I'm going to send it to the action.php file as an AJAX post request. Okay, and you can see here I'm creating an AJAX request. Okay, $.ajax, and then we need to set the URL, which means we need to tell that to which file you are trying to make an AJAX post request. Okay, so I'm trying to make an AJAX post request to the action.php file. That's why I have given a name as action.php in the URL. Okay, and method will be post. Okay, and then action, I'm sending this action as a data to action.php file. Okay, so the action is fetch data. Okay, so I will use this fetch data in my action.php to get the data from the MySQL table. Okay, next is then I will run an success function. Okay, and along with this function, success function, I am passing the data. Okay, and then I will call post list.html method. Okay, so I'm making a call to this post list ID inside this success function, and I will be passing the data which has been received from this action.php file to this table. Okay, let's comment it out. Okay, let's enable this alert box. Now here I have written this fetch data function to make an AJAX post request to action.php file. Then the control should go to the action.php file where we need to include our database configuration details. Okay, so here we need to include that. Okay, here you can see I'm including db.php file which is present inside config folder, and then I'm checking if is set $_post action. Okay, if the AJAX post request is successfully been made to this action.php file, and then here I am checking if $_post action is equals to fetch data, which you can see here. I had created an action as fetch data, and I am checking that if this AJAX post request has that action as fetch data, and that I will be comparing inside my action.php. If $_post action is equals to fetch data, then I will create the query. Okay, and in that query I am selecting each and every piece of data from data filter table, and also I am getting the details from the status table as well. Okay, so I'm joining data filter and status table based on the common field status present in both the tables, both in data filter and status. Okay, so now let me just take you to the tables. Okay, so here in the data filter table we have a field as status, okay, which is an ID. Okay, and in the status table we have an ID as status ID. Okay, so I'm matching the status of the data filter table with the status ID of the status table. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in this query. Okay, and I'm arranging the data in descending order, okay, by using order by clause. And then here you can see I'm making a call to this get data function, and I'm passing the query to this get data function. Okay, so now I need to create that get data function. Okay, now you can see here I have created that get data function, and here this get data function is also accepting a query, okay, which is this query. Okay, and here inside this as well we need to include our db.php file, which is our database configuration file. Okay, next here we need to create an output. Okay, and then I'm using MySQL query method, and I'm passing the connect object which has been created inside this database configuration file. Okay, here you can see this connect I am passing to this MySQL query method, and along with that I am passing this query to this MySQL query method. Okay, and then once I execute this statement, okay, then I need to check is there any record present inside data filter table or in both the tables. That means if there is at least one or more than one record present inside this data filter table, then we will be returning those records. If there won't be any data present inside both the tables, then we will be displaying post not found. Okay, next, if we have more than one record present or rows present inside MySQL table, since we have many records present inside MySQL table, then we have to iterate over each and every of those rows. Okay, and for that I have used for each loop. Okay, and I will be iterating over those records one by one, and I will get the details from those rows. Okay, so here you can see I have created a variable as output, and in that I have created a row using tr tag, and tr tag gets started here and it gets end here, and inside that I have created a table data, okay, tag, and in that table data tag I am trying to display the employee name and the task details, okay, of that employee, and also I want to display start date and end date, and then finally we will display the status. Okay, yes, now let's save it. When I refresh, okay, so nothing gets happen, because here we need to come here and we need to call this function fetch data. Okay, save it. Now let's refresh. Okay, so you can see the moment when I click on refresh, it's displaying the details like employee name, task details, and then start date, end date, status, okay, in the form of an alert, because here the moment when this action.php file sent the data to index.php, here inside the success function I am receiving the response and displaying that response in the form of an alert box. Okay, suppose if I remove it, okay, and if I enable this post list, now when I refresh, you will see all the data started displaying in the form of a table. Okay, yes, now we need to create that action button. So that as well we need to create inside this get data function. Okay, so for creating that action button, again we need to create a td tag, and inside that td tag we need to create an anchor tag, and you can see I have set a style attribute and margin as 5 pixel. Okay, now let's save it, and okay, now you can see it's started displaying you the links, delete links. Okay, now here you can see I want to give it a font awesome icon, which is trash icon. Okay, and I have set the size, font size of that icon as 10 pixel. Let's refresh. Okay, trash icon started displaying here, and I also want to give it a color, okay, to the button. Okay, so now you can see the style of the button gets changed, and I also want to give it a data val attribute, and that data val attribute will have the ID of that particular row. Okay, so now when I refresh and I right click on this and click on inspect, now you will see here in the anchor tag you will see data val attribute gets set, and the data val attribute value is 15, which is the ID of that particular record. Okay, so I will be using this ID to delete each and every of this record. Okay, so now let's save it. Okay, so now here you can see at the end I am displaying, or I am sending the data. Okay, the entire data of employee name, task detail, start date, end date, and task status gets appended to this output, okay, variable, and I am sending that output back to this index.php, from where I will be making an AJAX post request. Okay, so here I will be getting that data, and inside this post list, which is the ID of this table, I am displaying the data in the form of HTML. Okay, and in this video we will discuss about designing this kind of pop-up menu with all these elements, form elements, along with the header and footer. Okay, and we will also discuss about developing the functionality of inserting this record inside MySQL table using PHP and AJAX. Okay, so let us start our discussion here. This is our completed application. Okay, so this one we had already completed, just to show you a demo, and this is our project on which we are working now. Okay, so this much we had completed in our last video. Okay, so now you can see the moment when I click on this add task button, nothing is happening because I have to link a model with this button. Okay, so for that first we need to go to our editor. Okay, so here you can see I have opened my project which I am currently working, and the name of the project is data filter. Okay, so this is the button add task. Okay, and I have set two attributes to this link, which is data toggle as model and data target as add task. Okay, so here to data target attribute I have passed the ID of the model which I want to call the moment when I click on the add task button. Okay, so now let's do that. Okay, so now here you can see I have created a div with a class of model fade and ID as add task. Okay, so this model fade is a default Bootstrap class. Okay, so the moment when I click on the add task button, I will be making a call to this ID add task with the help of this data target attribute. Okay, next I will create another div with a class of model dialog. okay, and this model dialog is also a Bootstrap class. And then I will create another div with a class of model content, okay, and then I will create a model header with the header as add task. Okay, so now let me just refresh the page first. Okay, so now when I click on this add task, you will see a pop-up dialog box started displaying, okay, with the title as add task. Okay, suppose if I remove this attribute from here, and if I try to bring this add task pop-up menu, now you can see nothing is happening, okay, because there is no data target attribute set to the ID of this model. Okay, next I will create a button, okay, and this button is close button. Okay, so now here you can clearly see there is a close button. Okay, so exactly the same I want to create here as well. Okay, so now let me just first save it. Okay, and now let's refresh, and when I click on add task, okay, so now, okay, so let me just come here. Okay, so save it, refresh, and now you can see the close button is also displaying, which helps me to close this dialog box or model. Okay, now next I will create the model body. Okay, so I have completed creation of model header. Model header is completed, and now I'm going to create the model body, and then later on I will create the model header as well. Okay, so inside the model body I will create I will create a form with an ID as post data. So this ID I will be going to use in my jQuery code for making an AJAX post request to my MySQL server. Okay, next here I have created a div with a class of form group, and in that I have created a row, and then I have created another div with a class of 3 columns. Okay, and in that I have created a label with an name as employee name. Okay, and then I have created another div after this 3 column div, and the size of this div is 6 column. Okay, in this column I'm going to create the text box for the employee, which allows the users to enter the name of the employee. Okay, so and this is will be of type text, and it has a class of form control, and this form control class is also from Bootstrap framework. Okay, and I have given it a name as emp underscore name, and ID I have given it as employee name. Okay, so this name should exactly match with the same name which you will be creating in your database. Okay, now let me just save it and let's refresh, and now when I click on add task, now you can see a label along with the text box started displaying. Okay, so like this, the same thing I'm going to do for another form element. Okay, and the same layout, form group, row, then a div with 3 column and another div with 6 column. Okay, so the same format I'm going to maintain. Yes, in the first 3 column I'm going to display the label, which is the task details, and in the second column, which is of 6 column, I'm going to create another text box to allow the user to enter the task details. Okay, and I have given it a name as task details and ID as task details as well. Okay, so now just save it and let's refresh. Okay, now you can see 2 text boxes gets created. Okay, then let us just quickly go for creating next row. Okay, and here you can see this one is for allowing the user to select the start date for the task. Okay, and then another text box with a name as start date and ID as start date as well. Okay, the same thing I'm going to do for end date as well. Okay, same thing you need to create. Okay, it's just that only you need to change this name as end date and ID as end date as well. Okay, so now let me just save it and let's refresh. Okay, So now you can see I have created four text boxes: employee name, task details, start date. Okay, so now when I click on this, you can see uh, it started displaying you the date picker. Okay, both for start date and end date. Okay, I can see this date picker because I have used the relevant jQuery files and CSS files. Okay, so now let me just show you that as well. Okay, so here you can see jQuery UI.css, jQuery UI.js. Okay, so these two JS and CSS files belongs to date picker. Okay, along with that you also need to make a call to this script. Okay, so which saying that it's making a call to date picker by using the ID of both of those date picker. Okay, start date and end date. Now you can see I have given the ID as start date to the first date picker, and I have given the ID as end date to the second date picker. Okay, or to start the date and to select end date. Okay, the same IDs, this start date end date IDs, you need to use here at the top inside the script tag. Okay, now next thing is yes, I need to create one more form element. Okay, the same format. The first 3 column will have the status, and then the second 6 column will have the drop down. Okay, and the drop down has the name as status and ID as status. Okay, and you can see inside this select I have select form element. I have created 4 drop downs. Okay, completed status, pending status, hold status, and in progress status. Okay, and I have given them an ID as 1 2 3 4. Okay, so I have created another table in my database where I am maintaining various status, and these are those status: completed, pending, holding, in progress. So now let me just show you that table as well. Okay, now you can see I have created 2 tables, data filter and status, and in the status table, as I have said, I am maintaining a status ID field and task status. Okay, so this status ID 1 belongs to completed, 2 belongs to pending, 3 belongs to hold, and 4 belongs to in progress. Okay, so the same IDs I am using here in my code. Okay, so 1 2 3 4. Okay, so now the next thing is okay, so we are now done with the model body. Okay, so model body started here, and okay, yes, it gets end here. Okay, so here we have completed our all form elements. Okay, so now we need to complete the model footer. Okay, in the model footer I'm going to create 2 buttons. One is for submitting the task, and another is one for the next button is to close the dialog box. Okay, the moment when I close that pop-up dialog box, the page gets reloaded. Okay, so this is what I have done here. Okay, using on-clicked event listener. So now let me just save it, and let's okay, so this is our current application. Now let me just close this one. Okay, so now when I click on this add task, you can see all text boxes started appearing, and the status drop down as well. Okay, so now when I click on, if I click on this add task, nothing gets happened because now I need to write the functionality for checking for the emptiness, as well as to allow the user to insert the task inside the MySQL table. Okay, now let us start developing the functionality of uploading task details on our MySQL server using PHP, AJAX, and jQuery. Okay, so for that, first we need to go to our editor. Here you can see this is our index.php file, and we have to come to the end of this file, and we have to, this is where our fetch data function is completed. And now we need to create another function, and here we need to trigger a submit event by passing the post data as an ID. Okay, so now you can see this is the ID which we have given to our form, and the same ID we have to use in our jQuery code to trigger a submit event. Okay, so now let's move ahead. Okay, so here next we need to get the details of employee name, task name, start date, end date, and status, and we have to store all these details inside these variables. Okay, so now you can see these are the IDs which I have given to my form. Okay, employee name, ID. Okay, so which you can see I have given to this input text box. Okay, and there is a task name. Okay, so let us come here. Okay, and here there is a start date, and I have created an ID with a name as start date. Okay, and then we have an end date. Okay, so this is the ID which I have given to this end date text box. Okay, and then we have the status. So now we need to check for the emptiness. Okay, so now here you can see I have taken an if condition to check whether each and every of these text boxes and drop down values are entered and selected. Okay, so I'm checking if emp name is not equals to null, or task details is not equals to null, start date, end date, and status is not equals to 1. If user has entered all the details, then I will be making an AJAX post request to the server. Okay, now you can see I'm making an AJAX post request, okay, to our upload.php, and the request will be of type post. Okay, and then I'm creating an object of my form, and then I'm setting process data and content type as false. Okay, and if everything works fine, if our jQuery script successfully made a post request to upload.php and successfully manages to save the data inside the table, then the control will come inside this success function, where I will be displaying the responses in the form of an alert box. Okay, so now from here we need to go to our upload.php file. Okay, now let us try to check. Echo here. Okay, so now let me just refresh, and now when I click on add task, I will select the status, and when I click on add task, now you can see it's throwing me a message as here in the form of an alert box. That means our jQuery script is successfully making a communication with our upload.php file. Okay, now here I need to get the details from my jQuery code into our upload.php file. Okay, so I need to get the details like employee name and task details. Okay, and here this should, okay, so let me just come here, and I also need to get the start date. Okay, so now I want to change the format of the date. Okay, so I want to change the format of the date to year, month, and date. Okay, so here we have created the start date, and now we need to do the same thing for end date. Okay, and then I'm taking the status. Okay, once I get all these details, now the only thing which is left is to write the SQL query to insert the data inside the MySQL table. Okay, so for that I have written an SQL query, insert SQL query, which says insert into data filter, which is the name of our table, and these are the fields of that table: emp name, task details, start date, end date, and status. And I want to store these values inside this SQL query. Okay, now I want to store these values inside the table using this SQL query. Now I need to execute that query. Okay, and then here I am checking if the data successfully gets saved inside the MySQL table, then I will be returning a message as a record saved successfully, okay, in the form of an alert box. If the data didn't get saved successfully, then I will be displaying a message as failed to save record. Okay, now I will just save it, and then now here, okay, now let me just refresh. Okay, and I will click on this add task, and I will select status. Okay, now if I click on add task, you will see it's displaying me a message as a record saved successfully. So now when I click OK, I want this pop-up dialog box also gets disappeared. Okay, so now let me just let us check. Okay, so now you can see another record with the name Manisha Kapoor gets inserted into the table. Okay, now here I need to hide the model. Okay, so I have given the ID to the model as add task. Let me just show you that. Okay, so this is our model and the ID of the model is add task. Okay, so the moment when I successfully save data inside the MySQL table, and when it returns the success message from this upload.php file, okay, then I will hide the model, and at that moment as well I'm going to reload the page, okay, which is location.reload. So now let me just save it, and let me just add one more record in progress status, and when I click on add task, now let us see, it's showing me a message as a record saved successfully. And now you can see the moment when I click OK, that model dialog box gets disappeared. Okay, and now let me just check in the table. Okay, so now our data is also gets saved inside the table. Okay, so this is everything about developing the functionality of uploading the task into our MySQL table using core PHP, AJAX and jQuery. Okay, and in this video I will discuss about searching any specific record by entering the name of employee inside this search box. Okay, so let us just see the demo of our feature which we will be going to develop in this video. Okay, so this is my already developed application, and here I will be typing in the letters like J. I will type J. The moment when I type J, you can see a record which has letter J in their employee name started displaying inside this table. Okay, and if I type M, then you will see all records which has M letter in it started displaying inside this table. I will change the letter to R. Okay, then O. Okay, so now you can see all records which has letter R and O in their employee name started displaying inside this table. Okay, so this functionality will be going to develop, and this kind of feature will be very useful whenever you will be performing any operations on data where you want to find any record. Okay, and when you have n number of records present in your application and you want to find some specific records out of those n records. Okay, so at that time this kind of feature will be very much useful. Okay, so now let us start developing this feature. Okay, so let me just close this tab. Okay, so for developing this, first we need to go to our editor. Okay, so this is our project data filter, and all this HTML markup we had written in our previous videos, and if you guys have not seen my last videos, I would recommend you guys to watch those previous lessons as well. Okay, and now you can see here I have created a form. Okay, so the moment we completed our add task due, okay, as you can see here it gets started here, and that add task model gets closed here. Okay, which is this one. Okay, so when we closed, after we closing that model, here we have created a panel body. Okay, and inside that I have created a form with a method as post, and then I have created a form group, and then inside that form group I have created an input text box of type text, and I have given it a name as emp name and id emp name as well. Okay, and here you can see I have given it a class and placeholder attributes. Okay, so I will be using the id as emp name in my jQuery code. okay, to make an AJAX post request to MySQL server to fetch the records from the database. Okay, so for that, first we need to go to at the end of this file. Okay, so here you can see I have created a document.ready function, and inside that I will trigger a key up event whenever user types some letters inside the search box. Okay, so here you can see I have given an ID as emp name, and the same ID I'm using in my search box. Okay, so this is my search box. Emp name is the ID of the search box, and the same ID I'm using here in my jQuery code. Okay, so emp name dot key up event, as I have said, I'm triggering a key up event whenever someone type a letter inside that text box. Okay, next, here I have created an action, and I have created an action as search record. This action I will be using in my action.php file. Okay, and then next, I'm collecting the text which user will be going to enter inside this text box. I will be accessing that text here in my jQuery code. Okay, so here I have taken an if condition to check for the emptiness. Okay, and inside this if, I'm making an AJAX call, okay, to this action.php URL, and I'm making a post request to this action.php URL, and then I'm collecting the details or the data which I want to send to action.php as a post request. Okay, so inside this I'm storing the action which is search record, and I'm also passing the emp name which is the name which user will be going to enter inside this search box. Okay, and then I will be making a success function, and I will pass this data to this success function. Okay, so let us try to print the data in the form of an alert. Okay, and now here we have completed writing our jQuery code. Now we have successfully made a call to our action.php file by passing these data to this file. Okay, so now we need to receive this data inside our action.php file, where we will be going to creating a query to get the required data from the MySQL table. Okay, so here I will create an if condition to check for the action. Okay, if the action is equals to search record, okay, then I will collect the data which user will be going to enter inside the text box, and I will store the data inside this emp name variable, and then I'm creating an SQL query. Okay, so select star from data filter, and I'm joining the data filter table with the status table by considering status ID as a common field between both the data filter and status table. Okay, and I'm using a where clause, and in that where clause I'm trying to get the data based on the emp name. Okay, so emp name will be stored inside this emp variable, and I'm matching this emp name here inside this SQL query. Okay, so if I find any record inside my SQL table which is similar to this emp name which user will be entering inside the search box, then I will be getting that record, and I will be getting those records based on the descending order. Okay, next, here we need to make a call to this get data function. Okay, so here you can see in my last videos I had created this get data function where I am collecting the details from the MySQL table. Okay, so this get data function, as you can see, it accepts a query, and whenever we will be making a call to this get data function, we need to pass this query inside this, and then the control will come to this function where it fetches the data from the table and return this data. Okay, now let us save it and let's refresh the page, and I will type M. See, it started displaying the details of that record which has M letter in it. Okay, I will type M O. Okay, so now you can see it's returning a record which has letter MO in their employee name. Okay, so now that means we are now successfully fetching the details from the MySQL table whenever user enters any letter inside this text box. Okay, next we need to come here and we need to copy this and we need to paste it here. Save it to bring all those records and display those records inside the table. Okay, so this is the ID which I have given to the table. Now let me just show you that as well. Post list. So now this is the ID, okay, which I have given to this table body. Now let's refresh, and now when I type MO, now you can see all those records which gets sent from this action.php. From here, those records gets collected here and gets displayed inside the table. Okay, so now I can search anything like RO. If I type RO, then it will start displaying those records which has RO letters in their employee name. Okay, so this is a small functionality of searching or filtering the records based on the specific field from MySQL table. Okay, so I hope you guys have understood how we can develop this kind of functionality. In this video I will discuss about displaying this drop down. The moment when you click on this drop down arrow, okay, and when you click on this drop down arrow, this drop down will get appear along with the checkbox and the details of task. Okay, so that's what we will be going to cover in this video. Okay, and whenever user wants to filter any of the task based on the selected task, okay, suppose I have selected responsive web development and HRMS development, and now when I click on apply, then the records related to only those tasks with the names of employee name to whom these tasks are assigned, and the starting date, ending date, and the status will also gets fetched from the table and start appearing inside this table. Okay, so that's what we'll be going to cover in this video. Okay, so we will be working only on the functionality of loading these tasks from the table and displaying these tasks in this form of a drop down along with these checkboxes. Okay, and the functionality of filtering the records based on the selected checkbox we will be going to do in the next video. Okay, so now let us start our discussion on displaying this drop down menu along with this task details. Okay, so this is my already built application, and now I will go to the application which I'm currently working on. This is my project. Okay, and the name of the project is data filter, and here you can see I have already created a database with the name data filter, and in that I have created two tables. One is data filter and another one is status. Okay, and inside data filter I have stored all the records. Okay, now let us come to our editor. Okay, so here you can see this is our table. Okay, and in this table I want to display that drop down box which contains the list of tasks. Okay, and this table starts with the table head and it contains a table row, and in that table row, actually this is our header row. Okay, and in that table row I had created employee name header, task details header, start date, end date, and action headers. Okay, and I'm going to display that task details drop down inside task details header. Okay, so here you can see I have created an unordered list. Okay, so all these are Bootstrap classes like drop down. Okay, and then we have an anchor tag which points to hash. Okay, and then I have included a data toggle attribute which has the class as drop down, and this class is also from Bootstrap framework, and we have a class as drop down toggle. Okay, and then I have a element b, okay, which has the class as caret, okay, which is used for displaying a drop down symbol which you can see here. Okay, so now let me just refresh, and when I click on this, you can see nothing is happening because I have not included that code inside this list. Okay, so now let's do that. So now here you can see once this anchor tag gets completed, and now I have created another unordered list with the class as drop down menu. Okay, so this drop down menu class belongs to Bootstrap. Okay, and I have given it the some stylings like padding. Okay, and then overflow, I have overflow towards y-axis I have set to auto, and I have given that window a height as 250 pixel. Okay, now let us see that. I have refreshed, and when I click on this, you can see it started displaying this drop down menu. Okay, okay, so now we need to bring all the task details from the table and start displaying those records inside this drop down. Okay, so now let's do that. Okay, so here I have created in PHP tag. Okay, and I have included my database configuration file, okay, which you can see here. Here I have that file where I'm connecting my PHP script with our database data filter. Okay, and then I have written a query to select ID as well as task details from the data filter table, and now I'm going to execute that query. Okay, MySQL query connect, I am passing the connect, okay, which is coming from the db.php file, and I am passing this query to this MySQLi query function. Okay, and then okay, so I'm going to iterate. Okay, so this MySQL query will return me the data, and that gets stored inside this total row, and then I will use an if condition to check is there any records present inside the table or not. Okay, so this SQL query will return me some set of records, and I'm going to iterate over those records. So before iterating those records, I will check whether we have records present in the table. Okay, if we found that yes, there are greater than 0, that means at least there is one record present inside the table, then I'm going to iterate using for each. I'm going to iterate over those records using for each, and I will pass the total row in that for each, and then I will create a list, and in that list I have included a label with a class of checkbox, and then I have created a checkbox, an input of type checkbox, and I have given it an ID as check. This ID I'm going to use in my jQuery code for filtering the records based on task details. Okay, and I have given it a name as ID. Okay, and to the value attributes of this checkbox, I have assigned the ID of each and every record. Okay, and here I am displaying the details, task details. Okay, so now let me just show you that. Okay, I will refresh, and when I click on this drop down arrow, you can see all the tasks which were saved inside this table now gets loaded from the table and started displaying in the form of a drop down. Okay, so from here now I can check. Okay, I can check any of the task, and I can filter, I can get the data which belongs to that particular task. Okay, so this is our thing about fetching the details of task. Okay, now apart from displaying the task details and checkboxes, we also need to display the button. Okay, which yes, here you can see if we didn't find any record inside the table, then we will display no data found. Since we have enough records present in our data filter table or task in our table, now that's why it's not displaying no data found. Okay, instead it's loading all the tasks. Okay, now next is we need to create another div. Okay, under this UL. Okay, I have created a div with a class of modal footer and button as type as submit. Okay, button is of type submit. Okay, and I have given it an ID as find tasks, and I have given it a class as btn primary, btn small. Okay, so this class belongs to Bootstrap. Okay, I have given it a name as apply. Okay, now I'm going to save it and I will refresh, and now when I click on this drop down arrow, a drop down gets started displaying along with the checkboxes and the label and the names of the task. Okay, and at the bottom right side you can see there is an apply button. Okay, so if I want to filter, then I will be just checking on this checkboxes, and when I click on apply, the required data gets fetched out from the table and started displaying inside this text inside this table. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Mehul Sheikh, and from past few videos I have been working on developing a multi-filter application and multi-search application using core PHP, AJAX and MySQL Server. In my last video I completed the functionality of loading this task from MySQL database and started displaying this task in the form of a drop down along with the checkboxes. Okay, and now in this video I'm going to complete the functionality of fetching the details of each and every checked checkbox from MySQL table. Suppose now I want to get the details like emp name, task details, start date, end date and status details of these checked tasks from the MySQL table. Then I will check these checkboxes, and when I click on apply, the details started displaying in this table. Okay, so only the details of these three tasks started displaying on this table. Okay, so that we will be going to cover in this video. Okay, so for doing that, first we need to go to our editor. Okay, so this is my index.php file where I have written all my HTML and PHP code. Okay, so these things we have already covered in our last videos. If you guys have not seen my last videos in this playlist, then I would just recommend you guys to watch each and every video of this playlist so that you will understand better. Okay, here you can see I have created an input of type checkbox and I have given it an ID as check and name as ID. Okay, and this name attribute I'm going to use in my jQuery code when I will be making an AJAX post request to MySQL server. Okay, so now this is the same checkbox which you can see in this drop down. Okay, so now you can see at the end I have created a modal footer and I have created a button of type submit and I have given it an ID as find task. Okay, with a label as apply. So what I want to do is first I will check any of these checkboxes. Okay, and when I click on apply, I'm going to trigger an event. Okay, that event will be this click event. Okay, so as you can see here in my jQuery code, I am using the same ID, find task ID, which I have created to my input type submit button. Okay, so this ID I will be using in my jQuery code to generate an on click event which makes a post AJAX request to MySQL server to get the details of checked checkbox from the database. Okay, so now let us do that. Okay, so I have used this ID in my jQuery code here. Okay, and then here you can see I have created an action as search task. The same action I will be sending along with my post request to my action.php file. Okay, and I have created an array to store the IDs of selected or checked checkboxes. Okay, then here you can see I'm taking the IDs of each and every checked box and I'm pushing these IDs inside this array. Okay, so now let me just show you that. Okay, so now what I will do, I will just refresh the page. Okay, and I will check any of the checkbox. Okay, so now I have checked 3 checkboxes. So now when I click on apply, you will see the IDs of these 3 tasks started displaying in the form of an alert box. Okay, so now I have got access to IDs of each and every task. Okay, now next I will make an AJAX post request to this URL action.php, and with this request I will be sending the action, which is search task, and I am sending an array because that array will be holding the IDs of each and every checked checkbox. Okay, then I will be making a success function. If successfully the data gets fetched out, if my post request successfully fetched the data from MySQL table, then I will be getting that data, and then I will display the data in the form of an alert box. Okay, here inside this alert box. Okay, later on we will display that data in the form of a table. Okay, so now here, as you can see, since I am sending an AJAX post request to this action.php file, so we have to go to our action.php file. Okay, yes, this is our file, and here we need to create another if condition with $_post action equals to search task. Okay, so here in my index.php I have given an action as search task, and this search task I will be sending to my action.php file along with the AJAX post request, and that same action I am receiving here. Okay, and then I am collecting the IDs of each and every checked checkbox. Okay, so now let me just show you those things in the form of an alert box. Okay, I will check these 3 checkboxes, and when I click on apply, okay, now you can see the IDs of each and every checked checkbox will be started displaying to you in the form of an array. Okay, so now we have got access to each and every IDs of the checked checkbox. Okay, so now next I will iterate over each and every of these IDs. Okay, and then I will run an SQL query which will fetch the data from my data filter table based on the common field present in both the tables, which is status ID. Okay, so as you can see here, I have data filter table and I have status table, and in both of these tables I have maintained a common field as status ID. Okay, let me just show you that. So this is my data filter table, and here I have a common field status, and the same status ID I have maintained in this status table as well. Okay, so with these 2 common fields I am trying to join both of these tables to get the data. Okay, in the where clause I am using the ID. Okay, based on the ID only I am getting the data from the table, from MySQL table. Okay, and at the end I am ordering the data in descending order. Okay, then at the end I have made a call to my get data function, which I have created here at the end, which will fetch the data from MySQL table. Okay, and display and return that data in this format of row. And let's refresh, and now when I check any of these checkboxes, okay, and when I click on apply, you will see the response started displaying here in the form of an alert box. Okay, and the same response I want to display inside this table. Okay, so for doing that, first we need to go to our index.php, and we just have to comment this alert, and we have to enable post list.html. Now let us refresh the page, and I will check these 2 checkboxes, and when I click on apply, then you will see the details of only those 2 tasks started displaying inside this table. Okay, so now if I want any other record, let us say I want responsive web development only, then I will click on apply, and you will see the details of only responsive web development task started displaying inside this table. Okay, in this video I will discuss about filtering these records based on this drop down, where I have various options like completed, pending, hold, and in progress. Okay, so these are the various status based on which we can search or filter the records. Okay, so if I want to view the details of completed records, then I just have to select this completed status from this drop down. Then you can see all the tasks that have got completed started showing you in the table. Okay, if I want to see all the hold tasks, then I just need to click on hold. Then all the tasks which are on kept on hold will start showing you in this table. Okay, so this is what we will be going to discuss in this video. Okay, so now let me just close this. This is my already done application, so I will just close it, and now this is the application on which we are working. Okay, so now here you can see I have a status drop down. Okay, where you cannot see any list items inside this drop down. Okay, so first we need to load this status from this table status. Okay, so for that we need to go to our index file. Okay, so now here, now I'm in my index file, where you can see this is the table header, and inside this I have created a select drop down with a class of form control, and I have given it an ID as task. Okay, and I have created an option called status, and now I have written a query to select all the statuses from the status table. Okay, next, then I'm checking is there any records present inside the table of status. Okay, if the row count becomes greater than 0, that means we have more than one record present inside the status table. Then if I have more than one record present in that table, then I have to iterate over those records, and for iterating over those records I have used a for each loop. Okay, and then this is the else part to display if we didn't have any record inside the table, then in that case I will be displaying no data found. Okay, if I have enough records present inside the status table, then I'm going to display those records with the help of this option, and I have given it an ID as task ID, name as ID, and value attribute of this option I have set to the ID of status. Okay, so now you can see there is a status ID field in the status table, and I have passed this ID to this value attribute of option. Okay, and here I am displaying that status, okay, which is coming from this table, which is this task status. Okay, so now let me just save it. Okay, and now when I refresh, now you can see we don't have any options inside this drop down. When I refresh, you will see all the various status started getting loaded inside this drop down. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to write an AJAX post request to our action.php file, from where we will fetch the details of completed records, pending records, hold, and in progress records. Okay, so now let me just come to our index file. Okay, and then we will come at the end here. Okay, now you can see I have triggered an on change event by passing an ID of task. Okay, so this task is the ID which I have given to this select drop down. Okay, as you can clearly see here, ID equals to task. The same ID I'm using in my jQuery code. Okay, so with that ID I'm triggering an on change event. That means whenever a change has been noticed between these tasks, okay, this jQuery gets executed. Okay, and I have given an action as search by status. Okay, so the same action I'm going to use in my action file. Okay, then I have received the ID of each and every status. Okay, now let us try to print this ID, status ID. Okay, let's refresh, and now when I select completed, you will see the ID of that particular status started displaying here. Okay, and when I select pending, then ID of that pending option started displaying in the form of an alert box. Okay, if I select hold, then 3 ID. Okay, and then in progress is having 4 ID. Okay, so these are actually these IDs. Okay, next. Okay, then after getting the ID of each and every status, I'm going to make an AJAX post request to this action.php file. Okay, and I will be passing few details to action.php file along with the request, and those details are action, which is searched by status, and status ID, which is this ID. Okay, so these two pieces of information I'm sending to my action PHP file. Okay, then I will make a success function which will return me the data. Okay, so if the AJAX post request successfully gets made to action PHP file, then it will be going to return some data, and then that data I'm displaying inside the table. Okay, so now this is the ID which I have given to my table. Okay, now let me just show you that. Okay, so now you can see this is the table body, and I have given it an ID as post list, and in that table I'm going to show the data. Okay, save it. Okay, next I will come to action file. Okay, so here I have set an if condition, and I have assigned search by status action. Okay, so now this is, you can see, whenever user click on any of this drop down item, then an AJAX post request will be made to this action.php file. And now inside this if condition, I'm going to take the ID which has been sent from this AJAX post request, status ID. Okay, and then I will execute this query, select query. Okay, which is joining two tables, status data filter table and then status table. Okay, so I have I have a common field in both the tables, data filter and status table, which is status. Okay, so I'm going to map both of these tables with this common field of status ID. Okay, which is available in both the tables, both in data filter table and then status table. Okay, so now let me just show you that. So this is my status table, and here I have status ID, and in my data filter table I have status field. Okay, so with these common fields I'm making a mapping between both of these tables. Okay, and then once I get the data, then that data I'm sending to this get data function here. Okay, so if the data present inside the table, then we will be iterating over that data using for each, and we will be returning that data. Okay, so these things we have already covered in our earlier videos. Okay, so now let me just save it, and now I will refresh. Okay, and now when I click on completed, you will see the tasks which are completed, which has the completed status, only started displaying. And if I change it to hold, then only hold records started displaying. And then if I click on in progress, then only in progress records started displaying. Okay, so this is how we can develop the functionality of filtering the records or searching the records using this kind of drop down by making an AJAX post request. Okay, this is the last video of our this tutorial series, where I'm going to discuss about deleting any record from this table. So if you guys like this entire series, then I would just recommend you guys to click on like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. So now let us start our discussion on developing the functionality of deleting any record from this table by just clicking on this delete link. Okay, so now let us first go to the place where we have created this delete link. Okay, so now let me just go to the action. Okay, and here in action I have a get data function where I have created this link. Okay, so this link is the delete link. Okay, so now I have given it an ID as delete employee ID. Okay, and I have set the ID of each and every record to the data val attribute of this link. Okay, so whenever I click on this delete link, this the value of this data val attribute will get passed to my jQuery function. Okay, so let me just show you the jQuery function. Okay, so let me just go to index.php. so here in the index.php I have created an on-click event listener, and to this listener I have passed the same ID, which is delete employee ID, which you can see here. Okay, so now I will just create an ID. Okay, so now you can see I'm trying to access the ID attribute or the data val attribute of this link. Okay, so that ID will be passed to this ID variable. Okay, and then I will set an action as delete record. So this action I will be sending to my action.php file along with my post request. And then here I'm making an AJAX request to this URL action.php, and I'm making a post request to this action.php file. Okay, so along with the request I'm sending the action, which is this delete record action. Okay, and then I'm also passing this ID. Okay, which is the ID of each and every record. Okay, so now next is, if the post request successfully gets sent to this action.php file, then it will be returning me the response after deleting out the record from the table. That response I'll be going to display in the form of an alert box. Okay, so now let me just comment this and let me just show you the ID. Save it. Okay, now I will refresh, and when I click on any of the delete link, it will show me the ID of that record. Okay, so this ID 22 is the ID inside the table, which you can see here. These are the IDs. Okay, these are the same IDs I'm trying to fetch whenever I click on any of this delete link. Okay, so that ID I will be passing along with the request, post request. Okay, so now from here the request, post request gets sent to action.php where I need to receive this ID. Okay, so now let me just come to our action. Okay, so now you can see here I have written a function when the post request action is equals to delete a record, which is this. Okay, this action delete record, then I will get the ID. Okay, along with the post request I'm passing two information, action as well as ID. Okay, so I will be accessing the ID piece of information, and I'm storing this information inside this ID variable. Okay, and then once I get the ID, then I'm making a query of deleting a record from the table. Okay, so that query is delete from data filter, which is the name of our table, where ID equals to this ID. Okay, suppose if the ID which I am trying to delete is 9, then 9 gets replaced to this variable. Okay, and then I'm executing this query by passing this query to this query method. Okay, and then I'm checking if this query successfully gets executed. That means if the record successfully gets deleted from the table, then I will be displaying record deleted successfully message. Otherwise I will be displaying failed to delete record message. Okay, so this message I will be sending as a response to the AJAX call. Okay, so with the help of this alert I am displaying this message. Okay, now let's save it, and now let's come to our browser and refresh the page. And now let us try to see whether our code works properly or not. Okay, so now let me just click on this delete link. Yes, now it's showing me record deleted successfully. Yes, okay. So now we can see one record gets deleted from this table. Okay, now once again I will try to delete one more record, and now you can see that record also gets deleted. And similarly I will delete one more record, and you can see that record also gets deleted. Okay, so now inside our table we are left with only 3 records. Okay, so this is how we can make a post request to our MySQL server using AJAX to delete any record from the table, and we can display the response immediately on the front end. Okay, so this is everything about developing the feature of deleting a record from the table using PHP, MySQL and AJAX. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial series, and since this is the last video of this tutorial series, so I would just request you guys again to like this video if you like this content, and subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. Okay, and thanks for watching.